Welcome to part 2 of a two-part SmartTechCheck EduSeries episode, How Smart Teams Learn from Product Failures. If you've been creating products long enough, eventually you will have a flop or two. I've certainly had product failures in my career, and what I learned from those setbacks proved invaluable going forward. In this video, we're going to examine what you should do for an unsuccessful product, specifically, how to run a post-mortem that produces tangible insights and durable change. And at the end, I'll share how you can get a copy of our 5-phase post-mortem framework and best practices, providing a guided working template to help complete your own post-mortem reviews. My name is Brett Faulk, and I've been a product management executive in multiple Fortune 100 companies and a few startups spanning more than 25 years. Let's get started. In many companies, when a product fails, what happens next is one of two things. Either the team moves on immediately, pivots, new priorities, new roadmap, and everyone quietly agrees not to talk about it, or there's a meeting, slides get made, a report gets written, and then it goes into a folder that nobody opens again. Clearly, neither of these is a post-mortem. Best case, the team is going through the motions to check a box as part of a sustaining or end-of-life process. A real post-mortem is a structured learning system, one that converts failure into the most valuable input your next product will ever receive. And the teams that do it well don't avoid failure. They learn from it faster than anyone else. Let me share a quick example before we get into the framework. In 2020, Quibi tried to reinvent mobile entertainment with 10-minute video episodes or quick bites available with a monthly plan, either $5 with ads or $8 without ads. The problem? Consumers already had YouTube and TikTok for free. When Quibi shut down in half a year, Jeffrey Katzenberg gave an interview and said, and I'm paraphrasing, that COVID killed Quibi. Wrong timing. Unprecedented circumstances. That is the opposite of a post-mortem. That is a convenient excuse, and it means the team likely carries every blind spot into whatever they build next. We're going to use 3 products as our case studies today, and we're using the same ones from part 1 so you can see both sides of the story. First, Quibi, $1.75 billion raised, 6 months on the market. In part 1, we talked about why it got funded. Today, we're asking, what would a real post-mortem have surfaced? And what would it have said about the COVID excuse? Second, Google Stadia. This was a cloud-based gaming service plagued by performance issues, including high latency, crashes, and missing features like remote play and family sharing. Google never released a public post-mortem. But the external signals, the gaming press, the developer community, the subscriber data tell a very complete story if you know how to read it. This is actually a useful lesson in itself. Sometimes you can reconstruct a post-mortem from public evidence when the organization won't do one internally. Third, Peloton Guide. The guide was Peloton's entry into connected strength with AI-powered motion tracking and personalized strength programming. Unlike Quibi, Peloton's leadership was relatively transparent about what went wrong, which makes this one rare and instructive. When you have an organization that's willing to say we misjudged the market publicly, that's a cultural signal worth paying attention to. Okay? Here is the framework. 5 phases. Each one builds on the last. You can use this for any product or service that is underperforming in the market. Let's go through each one. Phase 1, assemble the right room. The people who belong in a post-mortem include, at a minimum, product management, the design lead, the engineering lead, sales, marketing, customer success, finance, and super important, a neutral facilitator, not the product owner, someone with no stake in the verdict. Before the session starts, you need to establish ground rules. No blame attribution. Lead with facts and data. You are critiquing processes and decisions, not people. Use we language throughout. This is critical. Everything that happened to the organization not because of one person. Why does this matter? Because without psychological safety and team trust, you don't get a post-mortem. People will naturally protect themselves, and the real causes stay buried. Phase 2. Reconstruct the decision timeline. Map every major gate the product passed through. Ideation, funding approval, design, build, launch, post-launch. For each gate, you're asking 3 questions. What do we know at this point? What were our hypotheses? And perhaps the most uncomfortable one, what signals did we have access to that we chose not to act on or we rationalized as not a risk? Then find the earliest moment where the outcome was actually predictable from available information. In most postmortems, that moment is much earlier than anyone wants to admit. For Stadia, gaming journalists documented the latency problem months before launch. That's a leading indicator that passed through a decision gate. Which gate and what was the team discussion, if any, at that time regarding early signs of risk and how to mitigate? Why did the product ship anyway? These questions are where the learning lives. Phase 3. Evaluate against 5 critical criteria. Think of these as the 5 dimensions every product has to earn passing marks on. If it fails on even one, you have a problem. If it fails on multiple, you have a Quibi. Criterion A. Problem validity. Was the problem real, frequent, and painful enough to change behavior? Or were you solving for something people appreciate in theory, but never pay for in practice? Criterion B. Customer fit. Did the actual people who showed up to buy match the personas you designed for? Where did the real buyer diverge from the assumed one? Criterion C. Value delivery. Did the product work as promised, not in a demo, not in a controlled beta, but in the real world under real conditions? Criterion D. Go-to-market alignment. Right product, right channel, right buyer, right price, right message. All 5 of those have to line up. If even one is off, the product can fail even if the core idea was sound. Criterion E. Organizational readiness. Did your team actually have the capabilities this product required? Not the capabilities they thought they had, the ones the product actually demanded. Here's a useful exercise. Score Quibi against all 5. You'll find it fails on every single one. And that tells you the problem wasn't timing or a pandemic. The problem was structural and it was detectable. Phase 4. Separate symptoms from root causes. This is where most postmortems fall apart. Teams identify symptoms, low sales, poor retention, bad reviews, and call those the cause. They're not. They're the result. First, use the 5 whys. Take any failure point and ask why 5 times. You almost never hit a root cause before the 3rd or 4th why. The first 2 answers are almost always still symptoms. Second, classify what you find into one of 3 buckets. Strategy failures, you made the wrong bet entirely. Execution failures, the bet was sound, but the delivery was poor. And external factors such as market shifts, competitor moves, timing events, genuinely outside your control. Third, weight the root causes honestly. But here's a warning. Teams almost always over-attribute to external factors. It feels safer, but most root causes are internal. Most of them are preventable, and most of them were visible before they became catastrophic. Katzenberg said COVID killed Quibi. However, the 5 whys would have found that Quibi launched without landscape TV casting, with the wrong pricing tier, against competitors who were free, with no behavioral signal that users wanted to pay for premium short-form content. COVID accelerated the death. It did not cause it. Phase 5. Produce actionable outputs, not a report. 3 deliverables come out of a real postmortem. First, 3 specific process changes that will be implemented before the next product cycle begins. Each one has a named owner, one person, and a hard due date. If nobody owns it, it doesn't happen. Second, an assumption audit template. Built directly from the assumptions that failed this time, this becomes a required document at every decision gate for future products. It's living evidence that the organization learned something. Third, an internal case study written for future product managers, not for leadership defense. The best organizations treat their own failures the way Harvard Business School treats case studies. They document them, they teach from them, they make failure into curriculum. Before we close, let's review 5 best practices that separate a useful postmortem from one that collects dust. 1. Never assign blame. Instead, analyze systems. People make the decisions their environment incentivizes. If a bad product launched, there was likely an organizational structure that made it possible. Fix the structure, the decisions follow. 2. Include the customer's voice, not just internal data. Pull actual customer interviews. Go through support tickets. The dashboards tell you what happened. Customers tell you why. 3. Make the output a living document. Route your findings directly into the kickoff process of your next product. If the post-mortem conclusion never appears in a future kickoff deck, it didn't change anything. 4. Acknowledge what went right. Focusing on failure alone can cause teams to overcorrect. I am sure some of your discovery practices, your research methods, your execution habits worked, and they'll get thrown out in the backlash if you don't specifically protect them. 5. Time box the meeting, but extend the analysis. The post-mortem session should be 1 hour, ideally, and certainly no longer than 90 minutes. But the work before it, pulling data, running interviews, mapping the decision timeline, should take 1 to 2 weeks. The meeting is synthesis. The meeting is not where the learning happens. The learning happens in the 2 weeks of honest analysis that comes before it. Let me leave you with this. Katzenberg said COVID killed Quibi. A real post-mortem would have found that Quibi committed $1.75 billion without a single validated behavioral signal. It would have found that the product launched without basic TV casting, that the pricing assumed Netflix-level loyalty for a product with no library, that the real competition was free. COVID didn't kill Quibi. The absence of structured, healthy skepticism at every single decision gate did. And a postmortem, a real one, would have said so. The best product teams aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who learn faster from failure than anyone else. Thanks for watching this episode of the SmartTechCheck EduSeries. If you haven't seen part 1, Why Smart Teams Launch Bad Products, be sure to check it out to learn how poorly planned products still get funded. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And leave a comment below. What's been your experience with product postmortems, and what best practices have worked for your team? Also, scan the on-screen QR code or find the link below to download our 5-phase postmortem framework and best practices template. If you need help running more effective postmortems or solving challenges related to your product planning, strategy, marketing, messaging, brand growth, or market research, the SmartTech team is ready to help. You can also use the QR code or link below to request a complimentary 60-minute planning workshop with our team. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.